This is Keke. Well, hello there, loves. I just watched Mrs. Doubtfire, so well, hello there, loves. Anyway, guys, I'm ready and willing and about to get all up into the first few months of motherhood. Yes, it is true what they say. You can read all the books, prepare as much as possible, and still be thinking to yourself, am I doing this right? Today I'm joined by Beth Iovinelli, a certified lactation consultant, as well as my partner, Darius, who has been right along this journey with me. Thank you so much, love.
From day one.
The mother of all mothers, obviously, my mother, Sharon, who has wisdom for days, honey. So, shall we go down this rabbit hole together, kids?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go.
I mean, you tell me. We talk about motherhood. This is something that you are. So 3 months.
There you go.
What's the review? What's the review after being a mom for 3 months?
Now, y'all see me go through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Those first few moments of getting, the baby coming out and just like experiencing that first moments of bliss to getting into the hellspin that has been breastfeeding and just making sure that my baby is gaining weight and the ups and downs of making sure he's growing and want to know that I'm doing the best thing I can and making the best decisions. It's been a journey. Let's not even get into the sleepless nights. So I don't know. I think that being a mother is so rewarding and it's something that I've always wanted, but there's really nothing that can really prepare you for it. It's really one of those things that you learn as you go,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now how do you feel now that I heard you say that when you came home from the hospital, you had all these people there and you kind of wanted them to go away. I knew that was going to happen.
I made a mistake with that. Because y'all know how I am. I love my friends, my family. I want everybody around. But after having the baby, that's the last damn thing you want.
That's
really.
The last thing.
That's the last thing. You don't want everybody in your face. And me and Darius, we're so I remember we looked up this word. It was like the opposite of claustrophobic. We like to be claustrophobic. When we loved being in that little hospital room together, bunched up. I mean, obviously Darius is 6'5", so he maybe could have used a bigger bed. That couch was maybe not the best
That was an adjustment.
But aside from that, me and him loved being in that tight little room, watching TV, watching reality TV, just me, you, and Leo. We wanted it to be just like that forever if we could. And when we got back, even though I think that we loved having you and Dad, because you and Dad, I feel like you guys knew, let's just come, make some food, help them for a couple of 2 hours, and then leave them alone. You guys kind of, I think, did it in a way that we really did appreciate, because it wasn't too much all up in our face. But still, I think that Darius and I could have benefited from just being completely alone because I don't know, it was just a lot of pressure. What do you think, babe?
Yeah, I was, first off, Larry and Sharon, the early morning shifts when they came in was clutch. Okay, it was we were up all night with the baby, so we needed to finally go to sleep. So when you guys pulled up 7, 8 in the morning, all the way up until the afternoons, we was already rejuvenated to go ahead and conquer another day with him. It was definitely clutch, and we can't thank you guys enough. But we for sure was. I think that even during our alone time before the baby, we enjoyed it, but we also were like, it'd be nice to have a companion around. So it was we for sure wanted this to happen. And the way we were finally able to adjust to it as well with bringing him into our own little personal space,
we liked the trio. Yeah. Well, I'm curious too with you and D, because I remember every man that I knew, you remember they kept giving you books and they kept telling you, they kept giving, even John Stamos, when we had him on the show, he was like, just let him know it'll happen. What is it that you guys go through? Is it kind of I think I still had to learn to connect to Leo too. Right. You know what I mean? Obviously, I think there is a cheat code with the breastfeeding gag that definitely does immediately give some type of vibe. Mm-hmm. However, it's still a learning curve, but I imagine it's different for dads. What is that, what has been your process of this is my son and this is how I communicate with him? What is that all about for you?
Yeah, I mean, even to this day, we're still learning to just try to connect and continue to grow. And as he continues to become more aware and just being able to react, that's just where I'm just focusing on is, okay, you're starting to be a little bit more responsive, slowly but surely, but it's still very much a long way to go before he's completely responsive to me and is totally aware of who I am to his life. But I've had to really practice a lot of patience with that because, I said this a couple weeks ago about how I was a bit jealous with their connection during the pregnancy because Keke, she was excited for every movement that he was feeling in his belly. I did not see it until I had to visibly see him poke out and kick. I had to visibly see it, but she was feeling it. Oh, the baby's moving, the baby's moving. I was like, okay, good for you guys. I'm over here just so it's for sure a patient game and just trying to at the end of the day, just also just asserting myself to being just a family man and just building that confident in that dynamic of, okay, well, until that time really comes, how's just our trio going to be moving? How's the dynamic between me and his mama going to be? So by the time when he sees us as mom and dad, he's able to see, okay, this is how they work together as well. And,
so it's all about that together. And you guys had like a little routine too, because when she was breastfeeding, then you changed him. So you had that connection with him. And I thought that was cool. And Keke, I wanted to ask you this. How did you decide to breastfeed? Because when I had my first child, my mother told me, don't breastfeed because you got to work. And there's and it's the hardest thing in the world is to breastfeed a baby and then try to leave the baby with a babysitter. So breastfeeding wasn't even an option for me.
Yeah. And I was talking about that, not too long ago. I think it's generational. Like, man, it's interesting because I think in your era and even before, when formula first came into the fold, it was seen as a status symbol, like I can buy formula. And I think that my choice to breastfeed is honestly very specific of the times. Like, I think that we've gotten more information about breastfeeding and it's so much more normalized now and it's so much more supported, but I don't think it's easier per se. I think so. This is the thing. I knew I wanted to breastfeed. I didn't know too much about pumping, but I had to learn about pumping because obviously I also work. So I was not going to always be able to breastfeed every time with Leo, meaning literally putting him at the breast. But I knew I wanted to do it because L'Oreal did it. You know what I mean? L'Oreal breastfed. And again, I think it's like in my generation, I think more people are breastfeeding. So it becomes more of this common theme of like, you know what, let me try to do it. I can't say that I live and die by breast is best because I think that's an unfair saying, especially to moms that don't breastfeed. You're still a fabulous mother if you don't breastfeed your child. But it was my personal choice to want to do it and to see if I could have that kind of journey with my baby. And it was enjoyable, but it has been hard. It ain't the easiest thing in the world. I mean, Darius saw me go through it. There would be nights where I cried and stuff, and he would just turn to me. He would look at me, and it was, fun thing about Darius, you have such a compassionate heart so much where I'd be crying and he'd look at me teared up and he'd say, you're doing everything you can. You're doing the best job. You're doing a good job, Mom. And that would be just all I needed was you point to me and tell me you doing this good job. You doing the greatest job ever. And I would just be so down.
Yeah. I mean, little do you know, I'm on the brink of breaking down as well. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to need you with me because I don't have breath.
Wait, Mom, did you hear him? He said, I don't have breath.
I'm gonna need you for this one. I'm gonna need you. Stay committed.
And you know what though? Sometimes it's funny you say that, but it's sometimes that's what he wants. Leo wants the breast. Like he like looking around for it, and you put that bottle. He put the bottle out his mouth. You can tell he's looking for mama. That's what he's looking for.
So I was gonna say this. So right now, as you continue to learn each day being a mom, what's something that you would love to continue to improve or work on as a mom? Like, what's something that you would say?
That's a great question.
There's a lot of traits that we carry as parents. There might be one particular trait that's like, maybe I could do better. Like, you're going to sleep and you're reflecting off of, maybe I want to do this with my son, or,
Yes. I think, and this is like, it maybe feels too broad or general, but I really want to understand his needs quicker. And I am very happy at the place that I've currently gotten to. But in the beginning, it would be tough when, if we had help with the night nurse, or if we had help from my mom, or if we had help from my sister, and they would know exactly what Leo needed. It would make me kind of sad because I'm like, well, this is my son.
Yeah, I get it.
And I want to be able to do what my son needs me to do as his mom. But I've gotten so much better since then of understanding his needs. And I see even more every day that, I'll have these moments where He just wanted mama.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it makes
Yes.
me really happy to know that I'm doing something right, because
Right.
he recognizes me and he wants me and he needs me,
Yeah.
So that for me, I would just like to be able to just know what my son needs from me, because all I want to do as a person, you know me as a partner, you know me as a daughter. I just want to be the best in those roles.
Of course.
And so
right.
I'm somebody's mama. I want to be the best of that role. So that's all I want.
Yeah, that's real talk. What about you, Darius? What are your, after being a dad for 3 months, what do you want to improve on?
This is definitely going to be more of an insider between me and Keke, but I for sure want to work on my stand-up game. And what I mean,
I know what that means.
I'm going to let you know right now, Darius will try to do everything in the book other than what Leo wants him to do. And what Leo wants him to do is stand up and
That's
walk
right.
around.
I will try my best to just rock with him, play with him as I'm laying on the bed. I'm like, I can't get up. I don't have the capacity. But last night, he pretty much was, he was trying to go ahead and play until he was done playing with me. He was like, all right, let's go ahead and go back to mama. So because he started letting loose, and I was like, okay, I think this might be I'm done with you. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. We gave him back to Keke. She started breastfeeding him and then was knocked out when he went straight to sleep. And at that moment in time, let's give a high five for that, because
you really saved my life.
I'm telling you that those nights would be the toughest nights where we're just trying to solve what he wants, and he is up for like 3 hours. It's really excruciating, but I was starting to figure out, I was like, okay, maybe I actually really just need to stand up. But man, you're talking about walking around for an hour or two. But yeah, that is for sure. One thing is, I was like, I guess I'm going to have to go ahead and continue to improve on this aspect of my parenting, just to be able to help my son and help all of us go to sleep that night.
Well, just wait till he's 2 or 3 and he's putting sentences together and he's going to jump on your bed at 3 in the morning. Mommy, Daddy, guess what I just saw? He's going to try to tell you a whole story while you're...
and what I'm not looking forward to that one, but I am. Well, love you guys. I can't wait to get into it with Beth. You guys both know Beth, and y'all know she has helped me so much on my motherhood journey. So I can't wait to hear about all the things she's gonna share. Baby, this is Keke. Today, we have been talking about my journey of motherhood, and I'm so excited to be sitting here with one woman who has helped me immensely in the past few months. Please welcome to the show, board-certified lactation consultant, Beth Iovinelli. My girl, Beth.
Keke, it's so good to be here.
It's so good to be here with you, and I need everybody to understand that, like, literally, this is my girl, like straight out of the hospital, my girl. When I think it was when I initially had, done breastfeeding in the room, it was like quick, like it was like a quick, like right after birth, they put Leo to my boob and it was just like kind of the initial quick thing. But then later at the hospital, they were like, we have lactation consultants that can come by and help you. And you were the first one I met. And I would just never forget your calm energy, but also your encouraging, my own personal confidence. It wasn't so much of this is what you do and this is how it's done. It's like, let your baby also tell you, this has been going on for years, and some of these things can be natural to the baby. So kind of follow the baby and then also assist. And you just were so encouraging. And when I left the hospital, everything went to shit, because nobody in my, only person that really had done breastfeeding was my sister, but it had been some time since she had done it. My mom had no experience. And I kind of went home and was just like, you get out of the rhythm of the hospital. It's almost crazy that they let us leave the hospital with these damn babies, because it feels like you're in the wild, wild west. And I told my mom, I said, we have to get the lady back from the hospital. I don't remember her name because I was obviously delirious, but whoever that lady was at the hospital, she was the one. She's the one that I need. And then that's when obviously you came by to the house and changed my and Leo's life forever. So
Wow.
I'm just so happy to have you on the show and to get into some of this conversation, because as we've talked about before, moms don't get enough support and have enough resources to amazing people such as yourself, because it's expensive a lot of times. So I'm excited to share some tips and just talk about some things that moms could be struggling with. And then also maybe help, encourage them to see someone if they can, or how they can possibly, get some resources to be able to get some support in this way. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you, Beth. And thank you again for
Yeah,
coming on
thank
the
you
show.
for having me. Thank you for having me. We were on quite a journey together, you and I. But,
Yes.
I think a lot of what you experienced was what so many moms experience is that elation, that joy of having the baby, and then the reality hits of, boy, I've got to figure out how to feed this child, and
Yeah.
then the challenges that go along with it. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting support and information to moms. Just to make it easier, because
Absolutely.
you've done a huge thing. You've birthed a human, and now you're trying to feed it, and you want to do the best thing. And, so many times it can just fall apart. And
Hmm.
moms are just, you go home and your milk is starting to come in and your hormones are raging and
Yeah.
you're just feeling like completely overwhelmed. And so just being able to be a calm voice of reason, to help mommies kind of just settle in and know that they can do it.
I could definitely attest to the fact that that's exactly what you are, a calm voice. And it makes me wonder, like, did you just immediately have that? I mean, I know some of this story, but I'm sure the listeners want to know, like, what was your journey to not only being a consultant, but I mean, I know you breastfed your kids. So
Yeah.
what was that like for you, and what made you want to help others?
Well, so I've been in the field of maternal child health my entire nursing career. It just when I was in nursing school, it just really, hit my heart that this was the area that I needed to be in.
Yeah.
And I just always, really liked helping moms have those light bulb moments where they're like, "Oh, I get it," instead of talking in a very medical, scientific way, and also understanding that when moms are learning, their brains are a little they're overwhelmed and they're not taking
Yeah.
it in. So sometimes you have to kind of draw the picture, the proverbial picture. So, when I had my first child, I actually really struggled. I had just graduated from nursing school, and it was at a time when hospitals were sending people home in 24 hours. So I was home 23 hours after I had my son, not knowing what the
Wow.
hell was going on. And I really struggled. And we kind of made it happen for about 3 months, but then it just kind of went down in flames. Of course, now I see all the
Hmm.
things that had I had support, would have done differently. So then I was really passionate about, I really want to try to get it, I would say right in air quotes, because everybody's journey is right. Yeah. So the second time around, I was much more prepared.
Yeah.
I had also gotten my certification. So I've been a board certified lactation consultant for, since 2001. So yes, I am that old. So I've been doing it for a long time. And I think, I continue to learn. I like to work with people that are smarter than me so that I can always learn. I think that's so important. And
Hmm.
most importantly, learning from moms,
Yeah.
just listening to the moms because they have a story and they have things that they've been observing. Moms are are the best reporter kind of about their babies. They know, even though you
Yes.
feel like you know nothing. I'm like, no, tell me more, because that gives me insight as to how I can support you. So yeah.
What is the biggest misconception you think that's out there about breastfeeding, or about the process of breastfeeding? I'll say for me what I think it is, and I think you actually might have been the person that said this to me, maybe not, but that even though it's a quote unquote natural thing, it doesn't come to you naturally. Like, we assume because breastfeeding is obviously what, moms was been doing for years, since before they had other assistance or other help,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like you just get it. You still have to learn your baby, and your baby still
Mm-hmm.
has to learn you. And everybody that breastfeeds, the process isn't the same. Some babies like to lay flat on mommy's stomach. Some like to be in the football hole.
Mm-hmm.
Some have to do the side lying position.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
so many specific things to it that, yes, you can say this is a natural nature thing, but there's still a learning curve.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like I learned. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not always instinctive. I think that's the thing, is it's like it's natural but
Yeah.
not instinctive for a lot of moms, especially because we don't, in the United States especially, see a lot of other women breastfeeding. So it's kind of always done behind closed doors and with big ponchos over you. And, so a lot of women don't see it. Maybe none of their family has ever breastfed, so you haven't grown up around it. Where in other cultures, women will see people breastfeeding and nobody flips out when they see somebody breastfeeding out in public. So I think just seeing it and feeling like I have the confidence to do it rather than I might do it, or it's hard. I think it's so hard. I've had several moms in support groups lately say, I spent so much time focusing on the labor that I felt like, right? I felt like breastfeeding was just going to kind of just fall into place. And there are some women that it does fall into place, but there are so many women that just need that support and that reassurance and all that.
1000%. That I also think that that there's also kind of like no way for you to even know what to search in terms of breastfeeding when you're not at that point. And what I mean by that is, like, I remember I searched some things on breastfeeding, but 100% was more so thinking about the labor, more so thinking about, all the different trimesters and what's going to happen and this, that, and the third. But once I actually started breastfeeding, I realized over the course of the things that I was searching and learning, there was no way for me to really know to even Google this. You know what I mean? Why would I be Googling how to harvest, my colostrum? Why would I be thinking about, how many times should you pump a day? When should you begin pumping? What actually is going to support my, my milk coming in? And, what about, my biggest mistake when I came home was I was breastfeeding every single day, in the hospital, which wasn't that many days, but like 3-4 days. I had a system going. The nurses were helping me, and I, was having the best time. And then when I got home, my mom, who has never breastfed before, didn't have any, kind of understanding of that, kept telling me, go to sleep, you need to get some rest. I woke up titties hard as a damn brick in the most excruciating pain in the world because that's not what, I didn't understand the system of breastfeeding. My body was used to that. My body was used to that system. It might have been better if I pumped before, or if I at least woken up for a second and then pumped then and then went back to sleep, as opposed to just, right out of the hospital, I stopped that system and my body's going into shock. It was things like that.
Yeah.
That totally or I remember when you were the person that told me there really isn't maybe nipple confusion. I remember thinking, oh no, now that my baby went to bottle, how's he going to get back to the nipple? I would love for you to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So, just to jump back to what you're talking about like you didn't know what to search for. I think the most important thing moms should search for is a lactation consultant, that they can get that support right out of the hospital, right? Search for a lactation consultant, because you don't know what you don't know, and the real learning doesn't start until you have the baby, right? And then you're like, oh shit, like I don't know what I'm doing here. So I think, instead of all the baby clothes and the fancy nurseries and all the money that people spend on onesies that they're going to wear for about 3 weeks, it'd be better for them to gift the new or the mom to be lactation services or mental health support, or mom support groups, like those things. So I think that's the best thing that you could support and give to a new mom.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. What was the other thing that you?
Yeah, the other thing was, the whole nipple confusion.
Oh yeah. So nipple confusion, it's not totally cut and dry, but the thing is that if babies start having a lot of bottles, we want to understand why are they having bottles? Is it because they're having difficulty at the breast? If a baby is having difficulty with latching at the breast for whatever reason it is, they're going to choose the path of least resistance, right? We all want what's comfortable and easy. And if for some reason at that point, latching to the breast is challenging, and there can be many, many reasons for it, and each mom's story is so individual, but we all want the easier route. And so if breastfeeding is difficult, babies will tend to start kind of pushing back when they go to the breast.
Sure.
But if breastfeeding is established, if the baby can latch, they are smart enough to be able to go back and forth between the breast and the bottle. Sometimes bottles are introduced really quickly, really soon, and that can also throw off your confidence a little bit because you look at the baby getting a bottle, and then you're like, "Oh, look how well he's taking that," and we're struggling at the breast, and then it kind of slowly, subtly, just kind of erodes your confidence, and so then, and I think,
that's what happened with me. That's what happened to me in the beginning. I mean, I was doing the breastfeeding and then I started putting in the bottle because also you feel guilt. And I'm sure my mom's listening can probably relate to this. Is like other people want to spend time with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom's coming over, your dad's coming over, the uncles and the aunties are coming over, but every 5 minutes he's got to get at the breast. And so nobody gets a chance to hold them. And so you're like, well, let's get the bottle so everybody can have a chance to feed them and all of this, that, and the third. And 100%. I think it does. It definitely did throw off my confidence because at first, then it was like, oh, he's good at the bottle. And now I don't want to be the asshole. Everybody's watching me. He's fussing at the boob. And now it seems like it's this vanity thing, but I'm just trying to do what apparently, is going to be good for him. I want us to have this time. And it really does shake you up.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because, obviously, in the beginning, I didn't know that my son had a tongue tie.
Mm-hmm.
And how that was going to impact the whole breastfeeding process. And so once we kind of got over that and got through that whole thing, now it's almost like it's hard to get him to do the bottle. And it's so crazy how just these little things, you never know, lip tie, tongue tie. I mean, I'm sure some moms don't know about this. I have so many moms, like my mother or people in that other age group, because I do think for our generation, breastfeeding has become more, I don't want to say trendy, but more normalized than maybe it was at other times.
Yes,
there was
definitely.
a time where it was like, oh, you're a rich mother if you can afford formula. It was almost seen as status to be able
100%.
to have formula. Whereas it's now breastfeeding is a thing to do. And now there's that whole thing, which, by the way, I think however you want to feed your baby is the way you should feed your baby.
I was thinking about what you said about feeling the pressure to give bottles, and that the idea is that the only way you can bond with a baby is to give them a bottle. And so I try to encourage moms to say, like, people can bond with a child without giving them a bottle. They can snuggle, they can do skin to skin, they can do baby wearing, they can do all these things that doesn't disrupt that newly kind of forming relationship, that breastfeeding relationship that you're developing with your child. Also, limiting visitors in the beginning so you don't have a house full of people going, I don't know, you should give them a bottle, you should do this, and again, I have nothing against bottles, I have nothing against visitors, but I think you need to create that little bubble so you can kind of get your feet on the ground.
I absolutely do think that was one of my biggest mistakes too, was having everybody at my house in the beginning. And that definitely, worked my nerves when it came to getting my breastfeeding stuff on the ground. But I was formula fed. My mom, she didn't have the ability to really breastfeed me. It wasn't a thing. Formula was still, I think, in its popularity, which I think, it doesn't matter either which way. But I think socially, we got to talk about this stuff because now it's like breastfeed. But then you find yourself in these positions like myself where, my mom doesn't really know how to exactly assist or help me in this regard. So many moms back in the day, because it wasn't as popularized with the lactation consultants and all this stuff with breastfeeding, they didn't have the support and they blamed themselves.
Yes.
Because they didn't have the understanding of certain things such as tongue tie or lip tie. I have so many moms that are in my mom's age group where they were like, well, my baby just wouldn't, the baby didn't like it. My baby didn't want me. My baby didn't do this. My baby didn't, my baby hated my milk. Or, I just dried up. I just didn't have enough. And what I've realized is that it was probably never you, Mom.
Never.
It was never you, Mom. It could have been multiple things. Something as small as consistency of pumping and or feeding, or consistency of the baby getting enough milk out, because the baby could have a latching issue, a tongue tie, a lip tie, they have some buckle tie. I mean, there's so many things that we've found out that people have had, and that was the crazy thing. I will never forget my boyfriend's mom. She was like saying how, he just wouldn't take it. And then when I found out about my son's tongue tie, I realized that my boyfriend had a tongue tie.
Right.
So this whole time she would have been thinking that it was her and he just wasn't latching and it was just, it was her issue. No, it was things like that can hinder. So I would love to speak whether moms, want to change that or deal with that or whatever you have it. I think it's important that we talk about it so that we understand why sometimes this stuff is a struggle, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, things can be a struggle. And that's why it's so important to get support so that moms aren't walking around blaming themselves and feeling like they're doing something wrong. I kind of joke around with moms. I might have even said it to you about Leo. I was like, no, we're going to blame Leo. We're not going to blame you. We're going to blame the baby. Let's blame the baby, not mom. Because, there's that old saying of mother is spelled Guilty, like right from the jump, you're feeling guilty about everything. And it just can be so challenging, and we blame ourselves and blame ourselves and blame ourselves. And it really, it's all these moms that have these stories. My mom, who's 93 years old, still talks about how she tried to breastfeed my oldest sister back in 1955, and she was doing well, but she got mastitis, and they told her to bind her breasts and just leave it alone, and that she shouldn't breastfeed. And all the years listening to me help moms and learning about it, she's just kind of pissed off that she didn't get the support or that she didn't try harder, but there was no support then.
There's no support. And that's why I think it's important. And also, not only there's no support, but we do have other options because it is another job doing the whole breastfeeding thing. I mean, everywhere I go, I'm pumping senselessly. You know what I mean? In the airport, in the bathrooms, in my damn animation rooms, shit, sometimes while I'm doing my podcast. So, if you don't want to do that, that's understandable. And that is the blessing that, hey, in modern day age, you do have other options. There are other things that you can do. And so I think that also is good to point out because it's tough, man. It's another job.
It is tough.
And it's, it's like one of those things. It's hard, but it is also rewarding. I am very grateful. I don't know how long me and my son are going to be doing it, but we've been doing it and I enjoy our moments and our time together. And I mean, it's just so interesting. Like, I was looking at this meme online of this video and it was showing like the connection between the mom and the baby when the breastfeeding is happening and it does something to the brain. I don't know. Have you heard, what I'm talking about with this?
Well, I mean, so when the baby latches, it causes hormones to be released, so the breast is stimulated, sends a message to the brain, then hormones are released that help you release the milk. So the baby you're a system together, right? So you need the baby latching, giving you that good feedback, and then those hormones are released, and then you can provide the milk. But you have to get that feedback from the baby in order for your body to understand what it needs to make. And if your child is struggling with latching, then you don't get the right feedback, then you don't get the right hormone spike, and then you don't make as much milk. And so it's a dance. It's a dyad. We refer to mothers and babies as a dyad because it's very interconnected. And if one person is off a little bit, it throws the other person off, So
and I think it's important to say too, what you were saying with the latching, just bringing it back to all the moms out there, if their baby is struggling with tongue tie or lip tie or any of that stuff, and you as a mom are struggling with wanting to help the baby with that and trying to get it adjusted, don't put so much pressure on yourself. If you decide not to, great. If you decide to, great. But I will tell you, Beth knows you were right there with me when we were helping Leo with his tongue tie. And honey, I thought I had made the gravest mistake in all of my life, because I felt like, what I felt like? I felt like, well, if my baby's not comfortable breastfeeding, then leave it alone. That's why we have other options, right? But I remember having conversations about, hey, sometimes there can be stuff with speech. There can be this, there can be that. And so, if you are worried that, hey, this is just for breastfeeding and, if it's just for breastfeeding, then forget about it. Then understand that there are other things that it can help and support your baby with in the future. But it is a difficult decision to make. And I'm going to tell you one damn thing about it. Those exercises, they lying about them exercises, y'all. When they tell you to get your baby's tongue tie adjusted, honey, and they tell you, oh, it's just some exercises. You get it, and then it's just some exercises. Absolutely not. It feels like torture. I'm telling you from my experience, it was really difficult. So get yourself prepared. If that's a role that you're interested in crossing, get yourself prepared because it is a little bit painful for the baby. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
mean, I remember you and I were talking, Beth. You were like, trying to figure out the best way to prepare mom for crossing such a bridge like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's one of those things that you can talk about it, but then when you get to the other side of it and you finally made that decision, actually having to do these exercises, there's stretches there. It's to enable the wound, if you will, to heal open and not to scar back down. So it is an investment, but it's an investment in the baby having a comfortable kind of life, if you will, the for eating, for speech, for different things. But it is a big decision, and it's really important to work with somebody who
Mhm.
really does know how to do the proper evaluation, because a lot of moms are struggling. They go to someone and they're told, no, everything looks okay. But the mom her nipples are sore. She's
Yes.
frustrated. The baby's nursing nonstop, not gaining weight well. And sometimes they're told, well, just give a bottle. And they're kind of gaslit a little bit in that they are struggling.
Yeah.
So if you don't get the answer, if you're struggling and you're listening to this and you are trying to get an answer, like you
Mhm.
have to be your own best advocate for you and for the baby. And you're at your most vulnerable. So it's so hard to be your own best advocate when you're feeling like you just want to cry, So
Yes, it's
you got to
tough.
just keep reaching out. You got to just
And
keep
that's why I
reaching out.
think the best way to support moms is just you doing great, babe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're doing great. Whatever you decide to do, whatever you're feeling, whatever you want to know about, learn about, you want to get support on, I encourage you to get that, and I pray and hope that you're able to receive it where you are. But just know whatever you're doing is great. And your baby is
Yes.
happy. Your baby, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Your baby just wants you to be happy. I think that's the other thing too, right? Is like,
Yes.
my baby can tell when I'm down or when I'm sad or when I'm hard on myself. And
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, whatever my happiness is his happiness. And I think understanding that has also given me a lot of relief. But it's an up and down thing because you just want to do what is best for them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are some of the best ways to support moms out there?
I think getting their partner involved, making sure right from the
Yeah.
beginning, having the partner come to a prenatal class, really discuss how they can play a role in an active role in supporting mom. Again, through just saying, yeah, you're doing great, honey, you're doing great, or let me get you some food, let me get you some drinks. Helping moms to get access to lactation support. Just come, if you come over to the house to visit a new mom, do not sit on the couch and want to ask to hold the baby. Like, bring food, throw in a load of
Literally, they
laundry.
always do that.
Like moms are like they're entertaining. It's like, no, you shouldn't be entertaining. You should be sitting there, snuggling the baby, and everybody else should be serving you. In some
I
cultures,
couldn't agree
moms are
more.
like in bed and they're having massages and the food is brought to them. And,
I'm here for
we
that.
just, yeah, right. Just like serve the mom.
My two best friends, Nora, Taylor, I love you guys so much. When I came back from the house, they had everything set up for me. Everything set
Perfect.
up. And I was so grateful. Like they were cleaning, doing laundry, getting the bed set, making, his changing tables ready,
Yeah.
setting up his cribs and his bassinets. And it was absolute. So I was very blessed and very thankful. I just should have told them, thank you so much. Now go home. No, I'm kidding.
Keep
Let
those
me get my
friends at
alone
all
time.
costs. Keep those friends. The ones
They're
that just know
amazing.
what to do without asking. They just come in and they just like, I got it. We got you covered. It's just
Yes.
having the right people around you. And also, communicating with your partner to say like, you might need to be a security guard and throw some people out if they're like,
That's right.
if they're draining, if they don't know when to, leave, if they, just put their feet up and expect to be entertained. Because,
Legitimately.
when COVID was happening and I was working in the hospital, there were moms, because there were no visitors, there were moms and their partners who would say, I can't imagine having any visitors. I can't imagine it, because they never experienced having visitors. They're like, I really feel like it would be so overwhelming. And
It
it
was.
is. It
It
is
was.
overwhelming.
For
So
sure. I'll never do that one again.
yeah.
I won't. I'm like, get all y'all asses out my house. I don't want nobody.
Baby, this is Keke
we got to talk about, because one of the big things, breast milk and breastfeeding and just, things coming straight from your body is, what's my liquor situation? I know some moms out there like a drink or two, and they want to know, what are your thoughts on the pumping and the dumping, or the drinking, and how to do that, when not to do it. I mean, I know my personal, have habits with it, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts?
So you definitely can have a drink. I mean, the biggest issue really is the safety part. It's like,
Yeah.
if you drink too much and then you go to pick up the baby and you feel lightheaded, especially in the early postpartum period when you're still a little wobbly, you just want to think about the safety. But, alcohol works its way out of the breast milk, just like it works its way out of the bloodstream. So if you feel buzzed, which a lot of new moms aren't out getting wasted, they're not doing shots, but if you go to a special event and you have a couple drinks, you don't have to pump and dump because like the milk is stuck in there. You might have to wait an hour until you don't feel buzzed, and then you can feed. Basically there's somebody out there in the breastfeeding world that said, if you can drive your car, you can breastfeed your baby.
Yeah, I think that's important to say, because I think a lot of us get so severe. Like, we're like, oh shit, should I wait to the damn 24 hours in between?
No. Couple hours after one drink. Couple hours. Just a couple hours. Just because if you have a drink, you feed the baby and then have a drink and then wait. And there are some people that don't even wait. The levels are so low. So it really goes back again to the safety part of it. Like, don't go lay down with the baby. Don't carry the baby up a flight of stairs. If you want to have that drink and just relax, get your partner involved. Maybe you have some pumped milk already that you want them to give.
Well, so that's what I do. I'll pump before, and then I usually do it at a time thing, 3 to 4 hours. And by that time, especially where I am now in the 3 to 4 month area, I'm only doing it about every 4 hours anyway when it comes to pumping.
Yeah.
And then every now and then, if I feel like I was dehydrated, because there's also the dehydrating, you're thinking, oh, am I dehydrated? Let me refill myself with electrolytes or whatever it could be. I always sometimes do a little IV drip, which is really good. Helps to get good vitamins and stuff back in you if that's something that you're into. But it's always good to say, because again, like you said, sometimes us moms, we're so difficult on ourselves. Like, we're so, we put so much pressure on ourselves. So, enjoy that drink, have that drink, moms, if you want. Just wait a little bit, and you'll be fine. So
absolutely. That makes a lot of people happy that they can have that cocktail.
Yes, exactly. No guilt tripping and shaming moms.
No.
So I see this thing online, and I'm sure some people are, first of all, I don't even have that much leftover milk. Like, I mean, I've got me like a little mini stash for safekeeping in case I, am out of town, or, just didn't make enough the night before, whatever you had, or if I had a drink or something. But my stash is not incredibly large. But you'll see these moms online, they sometimes have a whole freezer full, or they're like, making bath milks and, making milk soaps. And I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, do the milk soaps work? Do the milk baths work?
Don't get me started on the darn freezer stash. I mean, like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it's, Instagram is so great, and it's so bad for so many reasons, because I usually tell moms, you have to make enough for your baby and maybe a little extra, so that you can have a bottle, so you can, but I've had moms 3 days after birth say, how can I get my stash going? And I'm like, girl, you don't need a stash. You just need to make enough for your baby, right? Literally. And so a lot of moms are over pumping. And so they're making ridiculous quantities of milk, also known as oversupply. Which makes you then have to pump all the time, because you're making so much milk that you have to pump. And then the more you pump, the more you have to pump. And it just turns into this whole thing. And it really messes with moms that have just like a normal supply, or undersupply, like low milk supply. They see these images and they think, that's like climbing Mount Everest. Like, I could never do that. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that.
And it's like, you see the stuff online, and your expectation of how, pumping and all that producing works. Like I remember me and my girlfriend, this was the part of my damn stress. The first day she's expecting my shit to come out like a water stream.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there looking at my damn titty like, when is it coming? When is it coming? And it's just dripping out bit by bit. Obviously, as time goes on, sure, you do get more, but that doesn't mean you're going to be pumping out 20 freaking ounces or, whatever in one sitting, like some of these super, unbelievable moms that have that insane oversupply.
Yeah.
So it's good. I think it's good to talk about realistic expectations, because the expectations that you get from being on Instagram and stuff are unrealistic.
Unreal.
It's great for that mom. You love that for them. But, I think it's like, you shouldn't be getting like, I don't know what the average is, but if it's enough for your baby, then you're doing good.
Yeah. I mean, most babies take somewhere between 25 and 30 ounces a day, and if you're stashing 10, 15, 20 ounces in the freezer every day, then it's, it creates problems for, again, like you're having to pump all the time. Babies can get gassy. And if you are breastfeeding, then they've got like a fire hose going down their throat because there's so much milk coming out that they're like choking.
You told me that.
Yeah, they're like coughing and choking because the milk is coming so fast. And one of the most common reasons that women will stop breastfeeding is due to something called, insufficient milk supply or perceived insufficient milk supply, where they're actually making plenty, but they just think, the baby went through a growth spurt or the baby cluster fed. And so they automatically think, oh my God, I'm not making enough milk. Or I don't have a freezer full of milk, so I must not be making enough milk. So I think we have to really dial back all these, hashtag freezer stash pictures so that we can kind of normalize it. Because moms, I see it all the time in my practice, all the time. Moms are like, well, how do I get my stash? And I'm like, no.
Okay, well, I could talk to you all day, but I got to get to this game, okay? We always end the podcast with a fun little game. So we're going to play a game called Sorry to This Man, okay? I'm going to quiz you on some breastfeeding related questions. And if you don't know it, you're going to just say, sorry to this man. Are you ready?
I'm ready. A little nervous, but I'm ready.
Okay, so how many calories does someone burn in a day from breastfeeding?
Typically, moms need an additional 500 calories a day.
That is correct. About 500 to 700 calories, apparently, that we burn, which is insane to imagine. I mean, these babies are taking a lot from us, and you don't even imagine that you'd be burning so much sitting down. I mean, I guess it comes from what is it that contributes to that?
Well, you make your breast milk from your blood, basically, from the body pulls all the nutrients and things in from your bloodstream to make milk. So, you're metabolically, your body's working really hard to make that milk for your baby. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what two happy hormones are released from a mother when breastfeeding?
They would be oxytocin and prolactin.
That is correct.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay. A year of breastfeeding equates to how many hours in a year?
Ooh. I would say probably a couple thousand.
A couple thousand. Yeah. So that's essentially correct. My answer is 1,800, which is conservative. So yeah, a couple thousand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's about that. Yeah.
Wow. Look at you. My girl Beth knows her stuff. Okay. True or false? Your breast milk changes depending on what you eat.
It can change. It can have subtle changes in flavor. Yes.
That is so true. And last, what are all the different colors your breast milk could be?
It can be yellow. It can be white. It can sometimes be pink. It may also be green and occasionally blue.
Yes. Well, I'm so happy that I know you and that I get to learn from you. You're absolutely amazing. And I just appreciate you so much. I'm so glad that I get to share you with my audience, and just thanks again for coming on the show. You are awesome.
Thank you, Keke. I really appreciate you having me here. And it's been a joy to watch you blossom and to watch you be a mother.
Yes. Now, how funny is it that I said that I'm a mother to you? I don't know if you've seen, but it kind of like ended up having a viral moment. And it just reminds me when I was in your office and I was like, I'm a mother. And I had you crack it up.
Yeah, that was funny. That was really funny. But yes, indeed, you are a mother and you are mothering it up. I tell you what.
You're the best. Thanks,
You make it look good.
Oh, wasn't that such an insightful conversation? I absolutely love Beth, and I've learned so much from her, and I hope that you guys were able to learn a thing or two as well. It always feels so good to sit down with experts and go through all of our questions with them. So until next time, you know it's your girl, baby.